let's get started. So welcome to Beyond the Textbook, Differentiation for the Advanced Learners. So if you haven't attended one of our sessions today, or yet, I should say, make sure you have some type of smart device. There will be some QR codes at the end that you might want to scan. Also today, there are no technology tools. We'll just be using the reaction button. So make sure you find the reaction button so you can give thumbs up. And make sure you can find the chat box and you will be ready to roll. Also, if you haven't been to one of our webinars before, hang on. It's going to be about 28 minutes of quick learning. So as I say, pull your seatbelts tight and let's get started. So right away, you're going to find the chat box. Share with us challenges or successes that you have encountered when you try to differentiate instruction for your advanced learners. What are some challenges or successes, we like to hear both, that you've encountered when you're differentiating instruction in your class for your advanced learners? Let's see some responses that are going to start populating in the chat box. So the chat box is great because we all get to learn with and from each other. So some responses coming in the chat box. Personalized learning plans, absolutely. Advanced learners still finish the extra work before everyone is complete. I have had that happen too. You think you're like this cool teacher and you're killing it, and you have this like independent study activity, and then they still finish that plus the regular work. I've totally been there as well. Let's see, there's some more coming in, some learning in plans. Absolutely. So it looks like we're all trying to like personalize this. I actually did a session this last week at a health science conference, and we were talking about all about differentiation. And a lot of times we feel like differentiating means we have to do extra work for our students, but sometimes it's already embedded in what we're doing. And so we're going to look at those opportunities today as well. Yeah, Pam's talking about keeping advanced learners engaged without leaving everyone else lost. Absolutely. Keeping it fair and equal. Yes, absolutely. Andrea, there's an Ed Week YouTube video called Differentiation. It's not that hard that talks about that exactly. Yeah, Heather's talking about sometimes give advanced learners busy work rather than enrichment, right? Like we're not challenging them because we're just trying to keep them busy and engaged somehow. Absolutely. Robert's talking about when they complete, they always want to disrupt class. That's definitely a challenge that we have. So let's keep going, and we're going to try to maybe solve some problems and enhance your successes along the way. So with that, here are our learning outcomes for today. My name is Mandy Green, Manager of Professional Services. All that means is I really love professional development, training, and instructional design at GW. So with that, we're really going to talk about some strategies. We're going to talk about some things like tiered rubrics, independent study, and some technology tools. And we'll see where we are in about 25 minutes. You ready? Okay, let's start by building a basis of understanding so that we all are working from the same foundation. So let's talk about Bloom's taxonomy, right? It's just a classification of cognitive learning objectives, right? For today's purposes, it's going to serve as our framework for differentiating instruction. So we're going to understand the 6 levels that many of us already understand: knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. Those are the older terms. There are newer terms out there. But for our advanced learners, we have to consider the importance of focusing on those higher order thinking skills, such as the analysis, the synthesis, and the evaluation. So by challenging our students with these tasks that require critical thinking skills, problem-solving skills, and creativity, we as educators can help them reach their full potential and develop a deeper understanding of the subject matter. Okay, so now that we have the same kind of clear foundation, it's quiz time. Are you ready for the quiz? Give us a thumbs up if you're ready for the quiz. Do you find your reaction, your thumbs up button? Okay, I see some coming in. So this next part, you're going to type your answer choice in the chat box. And it's going to be really easy. You're going to type a letter, A, B, or C. That's all you're going to type in the chat box. So here comes question 1. First question: which of the following enrichment activities best aligned with higher order thinking skills? Would it be A, where you create a multimedia presentation on a topic of your choice? Would it be B, complete a worksheet on vocabulary terms? Would it be C, watch a video and answer comprehension questions? So I'm seeing all A's come in. All A's, all A's, all A's. So many A's are coming in. So yeah, so for this question, the multimedia presentation on a topic of their choice would definitely be something that aligns with higher level thinking skills. Now let's move to the next one, because you're going to think I might be tricky, but we're not tricky today. Which one of these aligns with a lower level thinking skill? Design a product that solves a real world problem. B, complete a crossword puzzle based on chapter vocabulary. Or C, debate a controversial topic with classmates. So I'm seeing lots of B's come in, right? Because the designing the product, that's going to be at the top of that Bloom's triangle that we just looked at. Debate a controversy is 2. Now, does anyone want to play devil's advocate? Okay, let's see about this next one. You can always play devil's advocate in professional development, right? All right, third question. Last quiz question. Which one of these activities aligns with higher level thinking skills again? A, design a model of a historical event or concept. B, complete a fill-in-the-blank worksheet on key terms. Or C, watch a documentary and summarize the main points. Which one of these would align with higher order thinking skills? So remember, we're going for best answer, but if you want to play devil's advocate, please feel free to. So I'm seeing some A's come in right now. A. And I saw a C. So how could C, where you watch a documentary and summarize the main points, be higher level? If you answered C, or if you just want to chime in, I would love to hear your response. This is where I wish we could have a conversation. And if we were in person, we totally would. I see some people typing, so I'm going to give them just a few moments to get their thoughts in the chat so that we can share. So we all agree that A, designing a model, is definitely higher level. But C is coming in. Yeah, they're saying depends on the criteria for the summary. Absolutely. So how are you summarizing the documentary? That could definitely make it higher level. I'm seeing David's getting some thumbs up on that one. Absolutely. I think Heather and Chris are also typing right now. So I'm going to give them just a moment so they can share their thoughts before we move on. Make sure you're checking out the chat box as well. Yeah, Chris is talking about synthesizing and analyzing information. Absolutely. So maybe you're starting to realize that it may appear like just based off a few word choices that it could be lower level. But how we have those students synthesize and analyze the information could make it a higher level activity, right? That summarization could move to a different level. Yeah, Chris is getting some thumbs up on her response as well. So let's keep that in mind. So ideally, we were able to identify the higher level thinking ones, but some might appear lower level, but they could be higher level just by tweaking a few things, right? Yeah, and Heather is talking about because you're analyzing what you saw, not just describing a historical event or concept that has been described many times before. Absolutely. So let's keep that in the back of our mind as we move forward to this next part. All right, so our goal is to move up the Bloom's triangle so that we can create learning experiences that have more higher order thinking skills. So what are some ways that we can start to do this as we differentiate for our advanced learners? So let's think about tiered rubrics. So these are assessment tools that really allow us as teachers and educators to differentiate instruction by providing multiple levels of expectations for a given assignment. So let's first talk about how we can create these tiered rubrics step by step. First, as always, any good educator, we're going to define our learning outcomes. So sometimes that's defined by the textbooks we're using or the curriculum that we're using. Just identifies what students should be able to know, understand, and complete after an assignment. Next, we're going to look at creating those multiple tiers. So the goal is to develop at least 3 tiers of expectations for the assignment, ranging from basic to advanced. So I joke about this because I've done this as a teacher myself. And because I am from Texas and I love salsa, I used to label mine mild, medium, and spicy. And so students could choose at which tier they wanted to complete or be graded on an activity. Next, we have to make sure that these tiers build upon the previous one, all right? Third, we have to make sure it aligns with Bloom's taxonomy or depth of knowledge, whatever foundation you are using or your school uses, right? This is going to guide the creation of our tiers, ensuring that higher level tiers align with higher order thinking skills. Then we have to have we have to have clear criteria, right? So create specific and measurable criteria for our students. Define what they need to be able to achieve. This is where we get to use those action verbs from Bloom's: analyze, evaluate, create. Then we're going to offer choices, right? So provide students with choices within each tier to allow them to demonstrate their knowledge and skills. Some ways that I did choice we'll get to later this session, but I used a lot of technology tools. And so sometimes they could write a response. They could record themselves using a video recording tool. I use Flipgrid a lot. They could, work with a partner to write a story. So there's different ways that we can provide choice in these tiered rubrics and assignments. Next, it's always helpful to have examples, right? Examples that our students can work at each tier to help them understand those expectations. Now, because GW is the premier CTE publishing company, I had to use a welding example of a tiered rubric for welding. And so as you can see, this one shows tier 1, 2, and 3, and it has the 4 different categories they're looking at in the rubric: safety, welding technique, design, and quality. So this is an example of a tiered rubric that could be used to grade, evaluate your students. You could give it to them and have them self-assess, which we know there's a lot of research on self-assessment, or this is what could be used from your end. So my question to you, have you tried a tiered rubric before? Give us a thumbs up or tell us a little bit about it in the chat box. We would love to hear about your experience with a tiered rubric. The same also goes for tiered assignments. So I tended to use more tiered assignments, but I did tinker in a little bit with tiered rubrics as a teacher myself. I'm seeing some no's come in. And so hopefully if you are answering no, you have the opportunity to learn with others from today. You might get some ideas that might spark a new idea that would work for your students. I also have a question coming in from Julie. How often would you have high achieving students choose a basic tier? It kind of depends on the content area. I let all of my students choose which tier they wanted to join at. Sometimes I would persuade them to join a different tier. But if they're at tier 1, then maybe add on to tier 2 for an extension of the lesson, or to tier 3 to add an extension. So they have their main component, then that could be their extension activity to keep them going as well. But I'm seeing some thumbs up. I saw some no's. All right, let's keep moving. So another idea for our advanced learners would be some type of independent study activity to help them delve deeper into the topic that interests them. This could help by fostering a sense of ownership and hopefully motivate them. These projects could be tailored to their preferred learning style or their abilities. It could allow them to explore subjects at their own pace. But by working independently, those advanced learners really can develop critical thinking, problem solving, and research skills. So let's dive a little bit more into some independent studies. First, you always want your students to brainstorm a topic. This is just a list of potential topics that might align with a certain subject or content area. Then they would need to narrow their topics. This will make it more focused and a more manageable scope, because we know sometimes our students can get way out there. Then the students will research and gather information using books, articles, websites, maybe experts, people. You as the educator could provide guidance on evaluating the credibility of those sources. And then we're going to have to develop a research question or hypothesis that really guides our independent study project. Next, some type of project plan, because we want them to outline the steps that they're going to take to complete the project, including deadlines, tasks, and resource requirements. Then they will conduct their research, collect the relevant data, and then probably ask for some type of guidance on data analysis or interpretation. Next, they're going to create some type of final product, a research paper, a presentation, a model, something that they'll probably ask for support and feedback as they develop the final product or presentation. Then the students will reflect on their learning and evaluate the success of their project or products. This is where we as educators can encourage them to identify areas for improvement and share insights with the group, because sometimes those non-examples or challenges can help us improve a product even more. And so hopefully by following these steps, students can really gain a deeper understanding of a process of the independent study project, as well as the project content, and hopefully be better equipped to guide their own students and their own peers into similar endeavors. So let's pause for a moment and think about independent study. So share with us in the chat what type of independent study activities you have used. And if you're like the teachers I worked with last week, you may already be doing some of this, but you don't call it this. So I'll give you just a moment to share in the chat any type of independent study activity you have used. I will say, if you use any of GW textbooks, we have several textbooks that have project or problem-based learning at the end of units built in. We have several that have some like emerging leader projects at the end of units. So if you're already using these would really be great independent study activities for some of our advanced learners as well. Yeah. Robert's talking about how they have a tool bag design and build as part of their independent study activity. And Julie's talking about a portfolio building. Absolutely. So students build those portfolios, which are really personalized to their learning experience. And it can build based on chapter or unit content. Yeah, absolutely. We have a couple more people are typing, so I'll give them just a few seconds so that we can share their ideas of independent study. But you might already be doing elements of this or pieces of it and not realize it. Yeah, Pam's talking about how they create puzzles and mazes to use as review material. That can definitely be an independent study activity. Right? Who says independent study has to come at the end of a unit or at the end of a chapter? It can be activities along the way. And I think Andrea's typing. I'll give her just a moment. We can include some of that in our chat. But I'm hoping you're starting to realize that you're already doing these great things as educators. And now we can be more intentional with what we call them. Absolutely. All right. So let's transition to one of my favorite areas, which is technology tools. So really, as we all know, by leveraging tech tools, we can create more engaging and really personalized experiences for our students, and especially those advanced learners. So thinking about from adaptive learning platforms that cater to individual needs to collaborative tools that can foster critical thinking and teamwork, technology tools really provide an opportunity for our advanced students to explore interests, to challenge themselves, and to develop some of those essential skills. So let's talk about a few of these areas. So when we think of personalized learning platforms, we can think of adaptive platforms. So platforms like Khan Academy can really adjust a student's pacing and provide targeted challenges. We know any of these personalized learning paths really create customized learning paths that are based on individuals' interests and strengths. And also, if you're looking into GW, we do have our platform called Ignite. That's a really easy to use online platform built to support teachers and engage students as they develop real world skills. It's an interactive platform that provides feedback. Students can demonstrate mastery of skills. It helps inform instruction by reporting on student performance and growth. So this platform can also create some of those learning paths for students. Next, we all know about online research and exploration, right? We're just looking for something like digital libraries that can provide access to vast resource or databases. So tools like Google Scholar can help students conduct in-depth research. Next, we can think of tools to help students collaborate and communicate, right? So we're looking for something with like some type of online forum where students can connect with like-minded peers for discussion and collaboration. Many of our learning management systems already do this kind of work for us in the discussion element. We can also look at things like project management tools. So if students are working in pairs or on teams, project management tools can help them organize and even manage group projects. Also, Andrea looks like she just shared a couple of options at the Success platform, so check out her comment is in the chat as well. So other ways technology tools can help us, right? Coding platforms, programming, platforms like Scratch, Python, introduce students to coding. And when we think about coding and programming, we tend to think about apps. I was actually at a health science conference this last week, and we were talking about some of the different HOSA, which is their CTSO competition events. And one that we talked about for project-based learning was medical innovation competition. This teacher's students had entered that competition where they identified a problem dealing with the medical fields. They then created an app as their final product to solve the problem that they had identified. And they submitted this to the medical innovations competition. So just the way that our students can also incorporate classroom content and technology tools for advanced learners, yes, but maybe even for some of our CTSO competitions. Next, one thing that we always think about is simulations and virtual reality, right? Things that explore concepts, interact with simulations, virtual field trips, some way to bring the outside world into our classroom. At GW, titles such as our modern refrigeration, they have many of these resources already built in to help students walk through simulations and really dive into those higher level thinking problems. Also, we can think of things like creative tools. So how can we use technology tools to help our advanced learners build their creativity, right? We can think of digital art tools. We can think of music production software, animation software, software they can compose and produce music, right? So we know that by leveraging all of these tech tools, we as educators can create a more engaging and personalized learning experience for all of our students, but especially when we're looking at our advanced learners, allowing them to explore their interests, develop critical thinking skills, and ultimately reach their full potential. So when we think about our technology tools, how do we use that to differentiate for our advanced learners? Share this in the chat, a few ways that you have used technology to help differentiate instruction for your advanced learners. Things like simulations, creative tools, communication tools. What have we used? I'll give you just a moment to put that into the chat where we can continue to learn with and from each other. I know if you've been here before, you're probably shocked there's not more QR codes linking out. But I decided to use the chat today. So let's see, we have a few people typing right now. So let's see some of their ideas on how to differentiate with tech tools for advanced learners. Give me just a moment to get that in the chat. Yeah, David's even saying like same tech, just next level deep dives. Absolutely. It's kind of like what we talked about earlier with the higher level thinking skills on our quiz that we took, right? So we might use the same tool, but the way in which it's being used is what makes it higher level or the next level deep dive. Absolutely. Also talking about students can submit work through text, audio, video, allowing them to have options for ease or advancement. Absolutely. Simulations, they increase difficulty depending upon level of student, right? Heather's also talking about Edpuzzle. That's a great one. Robert's talking about, what section of the refrigeration book did you mention? Robert, there are actually additional assets that are found with like the follow the heat, troubleshooting. Some of those have animations built into them as well. And if you want, you can email me at the end and we'll talk more. But yeah, like anything to encourage them to help their classmates, some of that peer tutoring, even with technology, helping classmates use technology. Absolutely. All right, we have like 3.5 minutes, so we're going to keep going because I'm going to get you out of here on time. So let's start to wrap this up. So we explored 3 different ways with tiered rubrics, independent study, and technology tools that we can start to differentiate for our advanced learners. Because this is just a short webinar, it's like 30 minutes max. Hopefully we sparked some ideas that you can dive into and find a way to make it work for your students and for you as an instructor. And hopefully you also realize how awesome you are and how you're already utilizing many of these in your classroom. So let's keep wrapping this up. So I'm going to put some links in the chat. This webinar concludes a 3-part series on differentiation. We are going to start a 3-part series on assessment starting November 5th. That will include a session on formative assessment, a session on summative, and a session on performance tasks. So we'll look at those during the month of November and the very beginning of December. So feel free to scan the QR code. I also dropped all the links in the chat for you for everything for the next few slides. We'd love to have you join us for that one. Next, don't forget your certificate. There's a QR code. There's a link in the chat. I also attached it to the file section of this webinar. So there are 3 places to find your certificate for today. Make sure you save that so that you'll have that for attendance if you need that. Next, all of these webinars are recorded and we do upload them to our website as well as our YouTube playlists. So this is a link to our YouTube playlist. This is where you can find all the recordings, usually by the end of the week. Don't forget to also subscribe to our YouTube channel while you're there so that you can receive notifications of when new content is added so that you have access to it 24/7. Also, if you just happen to want a sample of any GW textbook, feel free to scan this QR code. We're happy to share samples with you, get you in contact with your local educational consultant who can answer all your content-based questions about the textbooks. That's there for you as well. And last but not least, at GW, we love to make our PD better and better. So we would love some feedback. So you can scan the QR code. The link is in the chat. So feel free to leave us some PD. Tell us what you liked. Let us know that you were here today. And with that, I am going to say thank you for joining. We have a little less than a minute left. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I am more than happy to hang on for a minute or so that we can get some questions answered. Thanks for being here. Have a great day, and we hope to see you on November 5th for the Formative Assessment Advantage. So we'll see you soon.